Hey everyone, did you see that cool YouTube intro that I made? Actually, I made it through Blender. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to Caster WPF. And in the previous video, we talked about double animations and how to create them in C# as well as XAML file. And in this video, we are going to talk about the second commonly used animation. That is color animation. So what we are going to do is we are going to demonstrate something like this. So if you see the first three columns are available here. The first two columns are similar, and the first two columns are just animating from one color to another and reverting back to the same. So but if you see the third one, we have a set of colors defined in the animation, and we even defined the keyframes, so what time it has to transform to another color, so that you can set using XAML file itself. And since this is a basic tutorial, so we are not going to get into much complicated thing doing from the back end also. So everything we are going to see, and we are going to do it in the front end in the XAML. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to create a new project. WPF. We are going to give it a name. And we are going to choose the location where it has to save, and just click on create. So it's creating. So it has created, and you see the just normal default setup, and I'm just doing some initial setups for the window to start up in the center of the screen always, and to make it transparent, allow transparency, so that I get rid of the top title bar. So if you haven't watched how to create a rounded corners and other basic stuff for a window setup, you can watch it in the link that I'm giving. So let's get started. So initially we'll divide the grid into two columns. So one is the color transition is from one color to another, and the second column is going to be like set of colors. So the two types of animations that we are going to see in the color animation itself, one is color animation and the other one is color animation using keyframes. So we'll have a equally divided two columns, and the very first column we're going to fill it with rectangle, and we're going to mention the column as 0. And what we will initially do is we'll put a fill color to some color, so that it fills up the entire space within the available column. So this is what initially what we were going to do. So we'll just fill it the color that we want, and that is not cool anymore, so we're going to animate that. So we'll keep it. So I have two separate columns, and each is filled with, one is blue and one is brown. And in order to animate, and if you see the previous video, we have created a storyboard in the XAML itself, and we are going to utilize the same. So first thing we have to do is, if you set anything in the property itself, it's going to be given a higher priority, so you cannot animate anything that has been set like this. So what we are going to do is we are going to remove this, and we are going to create a style, and each object.style will contain a style tag, and you have to specifically mention I am my style target type is rectangle, because somehow it doesn't reflect the properties when you are trying to do a setter. So initially your rectangle will have one color, right? So that color you are going to animate to some other color. So the transformation is what we are going to do. So in order to set the initial property, so we will be using the setter tag, and in the property we'll keep it as fill and value as blue. So now this property is set in the style, so this property can be changed or can be animated. So in order to do that, we have to create a trigger. So style.trigger, and what trigger we are going to do is we are going to do event trigger. So this is a very simple trigger that gets triggered when the rectangle is loaded. So if you don't know about triggers and what it does do and what it doesn't do, we will cover that in a separate video. So that's not the scope of this particular animation basics. So inside the event trigger we have begin storyboard, and we have storyboard, and also we have color animation. So there are two types that I told, right? One is color animation and one is color animation using keyframes. So the first column will use color animation, and you can specifically mention from which color it has to change, but I already have a default set of color that is already set in the setter property, so that is blue. So I don't need to specify it here again, because I only need to specify 2 because it's already blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the destination of the color or the end result of the color. So we'll pick something like dark orange. So we have a duration, so how long the transition has to happen. We'll keep it as 2 seconds as of now. And what else is missing? So auto reverse. So the auto reverse actually it reverses the animation, like once the 2 seconds complete, right? So from blue to dark orange it takes 2 seconds, and then the final set of the rectangle will be dark orange. So if the auto reverse is true, so what it's going to happen is from the dark orange to blue it will again animate with the same duration as 2 seconds, and it's a one-time process. So what you have to do is, in order to repeat that, we have repeat behavior, and you simply mention forever, and what we have missing is what property we are going to animate. So if you take a look at the fill property, so the fill property is not actually the color, it's a solid color brush type, so not a color type. So if you are going to try color animation, you cannot directly mention the storyboard target property as fill. So the problem with that is, this is color animation, it's going to animate only color, not the brush. So in order to understand that further, I'll show you what actually it is. So I'm going to create on solid color brush. Let's name it something. And if you use the brush property, you have a color brush. If you look into the brush properties, you have a color property. So this property we can animate. So if you take a rectangle object and if you look inside the rectangle object, this fill is actually is of a brush type. So if you do fill dot and you don't see that, so actually the brush type is a base class of solid brush, solid color brush. So if you switch it to solid color brush or cast it to solid color brush, and you get it the color property at the end. So this color property you can animate based using color animation. So that's what we are going to do. So instead of directly mentioning the fill property, we're going to use fill dot color. So the color property we are just going to fetch the color from the solid color brush and we are going to animate them. So I think that's pretty much closes the default type of color animation. Let's see how it works. So it just animates it to dark orange from the blue, and it just repeats it, it reverses it and repeats it forever. So one thing, I mean almost half of our journey is done, and what we are going to do is we are going to do a similar setup for the second column, so which we are going to animate it with multiple colors. So in the color animation, if you are looking inside, you don't find the set of colors you are going to mention. So that's where we are going to use color animation using keyframes. So same way what we are going to do is we are going to remove the fill and we are going to do it inside the style. We have style, target type, rectangle, and you have setter, property, you have fill, you have a value of what we have kept, brown I guess. And now the same thing, so you're going to create a trigger, and it's an event trigger, and we're going to begin the storyboard. So what storyboard it is, we are going to define it inside. So you have color animation using keyframes, so we're going to utilize that. So in this property, we are not going to set from or to, or basically from is already set as a brown, so to will be multiple set of colors. So we will be setting it as a keyframes inside the tag. So to start off, the basic properties you need is begin time. So we are beginning at the initial 00 itself, and your duration. So your duration is going to be how long your animation is going to happen. So since we are going to animate multiple colors, we need some longer time when compared to the previous one where we just going on back and forth. So what we are going to do is we are going to take it up to 10 duration, and we have property, the same property that we did earlier, fill dot color, and inside we are going to give the keyframes, so what time and what color it has to transition. So there are different type of keyframes available. You have a linear keyframe, you have a spline keyframe, and you have a discrete color keyframe. So the difference between them is linear will transition from start time to the end time pretty much smoothly, and your discrete color keyframe is going to be like a jump off. So you have a 1 second you have a blue, and then next second it's going to blink off into a different color. So we don't need that, we just need the linear color frame. So the others are a little bit complicated, we can look at in the advanced course. So you have a linear keyframe and you have key time. What you can do is you can mention the time. So I have 2 seconds of to the value. What you can do is, let's keep it as cyan or cyan, it depends upon how you pronounce it. So that's all, you just mention the time and you just mention what value it has to change. So the same thing it has to you have to copy paste it multiple times till you reach your duration. So 4, 6, 8 and 10. So you have till second 2 seconds it is going to be shifting from brown to cyan, and from second from 2 to 4 it's going to shift to maybe magenta, and from 4 to 6 it's going to shift to yellow, and 6 to 8 you have let's say CMYK black, and the very next second what we are going to do is the 10, that's what the duration is, right? So 8 to 10, so we'll keep it as something violet, and what else is missing? So let's give it a go and see how it behaves. So it shifts cyan, magenta and yellow and black and violet, and it just stops. So we haven't mentioned repeat behavior, so it just stops. So yeah, missed that one. Repeat behavior as forever, and maybe you can keep auto reverse. I will show you how, if you keep it as false, how it behaves. Let's see. So you have cyan, magenta, and goes back to yellow and black, and then violet, and then reverse back cyan, and then I guess it's going to come into brown and then go back to, so it just repeats itself. So what we will do, we'll set the auto reverse as false and see how it behaves. So cyan it goes, and magenta, yellow, black, violet. Okay, so that's what the so as soon as it goes to the violet, and it suddenly blinks off to the brown, and the brown is not at all being seen. So in order to do that, you have to make sure your last color is going to be the same as your first initial set of colors, so that you will see a smooth transition from the last to the end. From the last, again it's going to revert back from it's going to start up from the first. So if you do that, let's see if I make it as brown, and I still keep it as auto reverse as false. So what it's going to do is, it's going to, at the end it's going to go off with brown, and my start is also brown, so you don't see much of a change there. It's going to transition smoothly. So I guess that's it for the video. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see more about other type of animations in the next couple of videos. Bye.